This substance costs more per gram than silver, and it can only be made by one creature on Earth. 50,000 bees working around the clock inside every hive, and this single facility manages over 3,000 hives. Royal jelly is the exclusive food of queen bees, a substance so potent it transforms an ordinary larva into a queen that lives 40 times longer than her sisters. Same genetics, same egg, the only difference is diet. That single fact drives a $2 billion global industry. We'll follow every step, from living hive to sealed jar, inside one of the world's largest royal jelly operations. China produces over 90% of the world's commercial royal jelly, and the heartland of production sits in the green valleys of Zhejiang province. This facility manages over 3,000 active colonies, each one a living factory producing royal jelly around the clock during peak season. The process starts with understanding what happens inside the hive, because royal jelly production depends entirely on manipulating the colony's natural instincts. Inside every hive, specialized nurse bees produce royal jelly from glands in their heads, feeding it to larvae during the first 3 days of life. These specialized glands sit in the nurse bee's head, producing royal jelly from digested pollen and honey through a process scientists still don't fully understand. A strong queen lays up to 2,000 eggs per Dalton Y, each one a potential royal jelly producer once the larva hatches and nurse bees begin feeding. Pollen is the raw fuel for royal jelly production. Without diverse high-quality pollen sources, the nurse bees simply cannot produce enough. All larvae receive royal jelly initially, but only future queens continue getting it beyond day 3. Worker larvae switch to a diet of honey and pollen. A queen cell contains roughly 300 milligrams of royal jelly, a tiny amount that takes dozens of nurse bees working continuously to produce. In nature, colonies only build queen cells when they need a new queen, maybe a dozen per year. Commercial production changes that equation entirely. These artificial queen cups are the key innovation, tricking nurse bees into mass-producing royal jelly on a commercial scale. The grafting workshop is where the entire operation begins, skilled workers performing one of the most delicate tasks in all of agriculture. Using a thin grafting tool, workers transfer day-old larvae from brood frames into the artificial queen cups, one at a time, with surgical precision. Each larva must be less than 24 hours old. Any older, and the nurse bees will reject the graft entirely. An experienced grafter can transfer over 1,000 larvae per H-hour, placing a tiny drop of royal jelly in each cup, first as a starter feed. That starter drop is critical. It signals the nurse bees that a potential queen is present, triggering their instinct to begin mass-producing royal jelly. A single day's grafting session can produce over 200 frames, each one holding 60 to 80 queen cups ready for the hives. The freshly grafted frames must reach the hives within hours. The larvae cannot survive long outside the warm humidity of the colony. Each grafted frame enters a specially managed colony, one that has been temporarily made queenless to maximize the nurse bee's motivation to feed these potential queens. Without a queen, the colony enters emergency mode. Every available nurse bee redirects her energy toward raising a replacement from the grafted larvae. Within hours, nurse bees swarm the queen cups, depositing royal jelly at an extraordinary rate to nurture what they believe will be their new queen. The timing is everything. Exactly 72 hours after grafting, the queen cups reach peak royal jelly volume before the larvae consume it. The colony maintains the brood nest at exactly 35 degrees Celsius. Even a 2-degree shift can kill developing larvae in their cells. Every hive in the operation is tracked individually. Production managers know exactly which colonies are strongest and which need rest between grafting cycles. After 3 days, each cup holds roughly 500 milligrams of fresh royal jelly, nearly double what a natural queen cell produces. Harvest morning begins at dawn. The team must collect frames from hundreds of hives before afternoon, Heat stresses the colonies. A few puffs of cool smoke settle the colony, disrupting their alarm pheromone communication and keeping the harvest calm and efficient. The production frames emerge transformed. Nurse bees have extended the original cups with fresh wax and filled each one with glistening royal jelly. Each bee is gently brushed back into the hive. The colony needs every nurse bee for the next round of production, starting immediately. A single morning harvest can pull over 200 frames, each holding 60 cups of fresh royal jelly. Speed is critical. Royal jelly degrades rapidly in heat. The harvest must reach the processing facility while it is still fresh from the hive. The journey from hive to laboratory takes less than 30 minutes. Every second at warm temperature reduces the potency of the active compounds. Inside the processing facility, the controlled environment takes over, temperature locked at 4 degrees Celsius from this point forward. The first step is decapping, carefully slicing away the wax extensions that nurse bees built over each queen cup during the feeding period. Beneath each wax cap sits a tiny larva floating on a pool of pure royal jelly. The larva must be removed before extraction can begin. Each larva is carefully removed with tweezers, leaving behind 300 to 500 milligrams of pure royal jelly per cup. Vacuum extraction pulls the jelly from each cup in seconds, far faster and more complete than the traditional hand-scraping method. The fresh royal jelly pools in sterile collection vessels, thick, creamy, and pearl, white with a sharp acidic scent that fills the processing room. The extraction line processes over 5,000 queen cups per each hour, each worker handling a different stage of the removal sequence. Each batch is weighed precisely at collection. A strong colony produces roughly 500 grams of royal jelly per 3-day cycle. China's Zhejiang and Qinghai provinces dominate global production, their beekeeping traditions stretching back thousands of years to ancient royal courts. The transition from traditional craft to industrial production happened over just 30 years, transforming family apiaries into pharmaceutical-grade operations. Raw royal jelly passes through progressively finer filters, removing any remaining wax particles, larval debris, or foreign matter. Every batch undergoes immediate chemical analysis, testing for moisture content, acidity, and the critical marker that determines royal jelly's value. That marker is 10-HDA, a unique fatty acid found nowhere else in nature. It is what separates genuine royal jelly from every imitation on the market. High-performance liquid chromatography measures 10-HDA concentration to the 100th%. Anything below 1.4% fails quality standards. Premium-grade royal jelly requires 10-HDA concentrations above 2%. These batches command the highest prices on international markets. The difference between standard and pharmaceutical-grade royal jelly can mean a tenfold difference in price. Quality control determines everything. Fresh royal jelly spoils within days even when refrigerated, so the most valuable product goes straight into industrial freeze dryers. The jelly is spread in thin layers across steel trays, maximizing surface area so moisture can escape evenly during the sublimation process. The chamber seals and temperature plummets to -40 degrees Celsius, freezing the royal jelly solid in preparation for vacuum sublimation. Under deep vacuum, the frozen water in the jelly transforms directly from ice to vapor, bypassing the liquid phase entirely and preserving every active protein. The process runs for over 24 hours, slowly extracting every trace of moisture while keeping temperatures far below freezing. When the chamber opens, the transformation is complete. Thick, creamy paste has become a fine, pale yellow powder with a shelf life measured in years. 3 kilograms of fresh royal jelly yields roughly 1 kilogram of freeze-dried powder, concentrating the active compounds threefold. The dried product is collected from each tray with sterile tools. Even trace contamination at this stage would compromise the entire batch. The powder passes through calibrated sieves, ensuring uniform particle size for consistent dissolution when reconstituted by end users. The blending room operates under pharmaceutical-grade cleanroom conditions, filtered air, positive pressure, and strict gowning protocols. Blending ensures uniform potency across every capsule. Without it, individual doses could vary wildly in active compound concentration. Each capsule represents the output of roughly 20 nurse bees working continuously for 3 days, concentrated into a single 500 milligram dose. Automated filling machines load precise doses into capsules, each one containing exactly 500 milligrams of concentrated royal jelly powder. Weight checks happen every 15 minutes on the line. Capsules outside the tolerance window trigger an immediate production halt for recalibration. Optical scanners inspect every capsule for cracks, color inconsistencies, and fill level, rejecting defective units before they reach packaging. Not all royal jelly gets freeze. Dried, the premium fresh market commands even higher prices for unprocessed paste, sold in sealed glass jars. Every jar receives a nitrogen flush before sealing, replacing oxygen with inert gas to prevent oxidation of the delicate proteins inside. A single 200-gram jar of pharmaceutical-grade fresh royal jelly retails for over $400, and demand exceeds supply every season. Fresh product enters cold storage immediately, every jar tracked by batch number, linking it to the specific harvest date and apiary source. Microbiology testing checks for harmful bacteria, yeast, and mold. Any contaminated batch is destroyed, regardless of its market value. A complete certificate of analysis accompanies every shipment, listing over 20 quality parameters that must all pass before the product leaves the facility. The finished supplements appear on pharmacy shelves across Asia, Europe, and North America, marketed for energy, immunity, and skin health. The packaging line runs 12 hours a day during peak season, filling orders for distributors on 6 continents. Fresh royal jelly ships worldwide in insulated cold chain packaging. The product must arrive below 8 degrees Celsius, or the entire shipment is rejected. A single shipping container carries over 2 tons of royal jelly products, worth more than $4 million at retail prices. Beyond supplements, royal jelly drives a massive cosmetics industry. High-end skincare brands pay premium prices for pharmaceutical-grade raw material. Luxury face creams containing just 2% royal jelly can retail for over $200 per jar. The raw ingredients value multiplied many times over. Formulators work with royal jelly at concentrations measured in fractions of a percent. Even small amounts deliver the bioactive compounds that drive the marketing claims. From capsules to creams to raw paste, royal jelly reaches consumers in dozens of different forms, each commanding a different price point. Retention samples from every batch are stored for 5 years, allowing traceability for any quality issue reported anywhere in the global supply chain. Royal jelly has been prized in traditional Chinese medicine for centuries. Historical texts describe it as the food of emperors and a key to longevity. Modern researchers continue discovering new bioactive compounds in royal jelly. Over 500 distinct proteins have been identified so far, but the entire industry depends on keeping the colonies healthy. A single outbreak of disease can devastate thousands of hives in weeks. Beekeepers check brood patterns obsessively. Irregular patterns or discolored larvae signal colony stress or disease that demands immediate intervention. Veterinary inspections happen monthly during production season, testing for varroa mites, foul brood, and the dozen other threats that can collapse a colony. The varroa mite is the single greatest threat to commercial beekeeping, a parasite that feeds on bee blood and spreads deadly viruses through the colony. Treatment must be carefully timed to avoid contaminating the royal jelly harvest. Organic methods are preferred because chemical residues destroy product value. A separate queen rearing program ensures a constant supply of replacement queens. Every production colony needs a fresh queen annually to maintain maximum output. New queens arrive in protective cages. The colony takes several days to accept her pheromone signature before she is released to begin laying. During production season, colonies consume enormous amounts of energy, supplemental sugar syrup, keeps them strong enough to sustain royal jelly output. The best apiaries position hives near abundant nectar sources, canola, acacia, and wildflower fields that keep the colonies well-fed throughout the season. Production data is tracked obsessively. Yield per F-rame, 10 HDA levels per batch, colony mortality rates, and seasonal trends all inform next year's strategy. Counterfeit royal jelly floods the market, so every legitimate producer invests heavily in authentication technology to protect their brand. Holographic seals, QR-coded batch tracking, and third-party laboratory certifications all work together to prove authenticity in a market plagued by fraud. A single scan reveals every detail, from which apiary produced it to which laboratory certified its purity. Export inspections add another layer of verification. Customs authorities in Japan, South Korea, and the EU all require specific documentation before royal jelly crosses their borders. At international food expos, premium Chinese royal jelly competes for contracts worth millions. A single distribution deal can secure an entire season's production. Import regulations grow stricter every year. Contaminated or mislabeled royal jelly shipments face seizure and destruction at the border. Japan is the world's largest importer of royal jelly, consuming over 500 tons annually for supplements, cosmetics, and functional foods. Japanese consumers pay the highest premiums for certified Chinese royal jelly, a market worth over $800 million annually. At the end of every season, the numbers tell a remarkable story of biology, harnessed at industrial scale. This single operation produces over 30 tons of raw royal jelly per year, from 3,000 hives containing over 150 million bees. Every gram of this substance was produced by bees whose glands worked continuously for 72 hours. There is no synthetic shortcut, no chemical substitute. The nurse bees that produce royal jelly are themselves only 5 to 15 days old. At peak gland development, for just 10 days of their entire 6-week lifespan. That narrow biological window means the colony must constantly produce new generations of nurse bees to keep the royal jelly flowing. The beekeepers who manage these colonies understand that their livelihood depends on an insect's natural instinct, one they've learned to guide but can never fully control. From fresh paste to concentrated powder to precisely dosed capsules, every form traces back to the same ancient partnership between humans and bees. The consumer taking their morning dose of royal jelly rarely considers the scale of what it took to fill that jar. From Chinese apiaries to health food stores in Tokyo, pharmacies in Berlin, and supplement shops in New York, the supply chain spans the globe. Royal jelly colonies also produce surplus honey and beeswax, secondary revenue streams that help offset the enormous labor costs of commercial jelly production. A single managed colony generates 5 distinct commercial products: royal jelly, honey, beeswax, propolis, and bee pollen, each with its own market value. The queen herself is proof of concept. Consuming royal jelly her entire life, she outlives her worker sisters by a factor of 40 and lays up to 2,000 eggs per Dalton Y. 6 weeks versus 5 years, same species, same genetics, and the only variable is a diet of royal jelly. That biological miracle is what drives the entire industry. 50,000 bees per hive, 3,000 hives per facility, and every single drop of royal jelly extracted by human hands using techniques refined over centuries. $2,000 per kilogram. Liquid gold produced not in a mine but in a living hive by insects, following instincts older than human civilization. The beekeepers who make this industry possible spend their lives learning the rhythms of a superorganism, respecting its needs while guiding its extraordinary output. This is the Royal Jelly Factory, where 150 million bees produce liquid gold that ends up in medicine cabinets and luxury creams around the world. The next time you see royal jelly on a shelf, remember, an army of bees worked 72 hours straight to fill that tiny jar. If you found this fascinating, you'll want to see how the world's most expensive spice is harvested inside the saffron factory where 150,000 flowers make a single pound.